lo, la, los, las, le, les, él, ella. There are so many pronouns in Spanish. I'm going to break down when we use one pronoun and when we use another pronoun. There are two kinds of pronouns. We have the stressed pronouns and we have the unstressed pronouns. What does that mean? In Spanish, we call them átonos and tónicos. So átono means that it doesn't have stress, it doesn't have emphasis. And tónico means that it has stress, it has emphasis. So the stressed ones are the ones that we already know by él, ella, nosotras, yo, tú. Those are the pronouns that are stressed, that are emphasized in a sentence. I'm going to show examples later so you see what I mean. And then we have the unstressed ones. The unstressed ones will be the ones that are not emphasized in the sentence, and that means that they're not the main action, the main person that does the action. That will be the stressed one. That will be the subject, for example, of a sentence. Yo hago algo. I do something. The protagonist, the main character. Those are the stressed ones. The secondary character, the ones that are not the ones that do the action, are the unstressed pronouns, okay? So the unstressed pronouns are the ones that complement. And what do they complement? They complement a verb. A verb, an action, can be done to something or someone. That would be the complement, okay? So for example, you can breathe, and that's just, you just breathe. You do it. Yo respiro, I breathe. And I'm not doing it to someone or something, which maybe I could, but I'm not going to get so deep into this. So, yo respiro, I breathe. You just do the action. But, for example, if I want to say I hug, I need to hug someone. This verb needs a complement. In English, you call it an object. The verb needs an object. If I hug, I need an object to hug, okay? Someone that directly receives the action of, in this case, hugging. Let's break this down in a sentence. Nuria respira. If I wanted to substitute Nuria for a pronoun, I would use ella. Ella respira. This is the one that's stressed. Tónico. Ella respira. Ella respira. You would emphasize that in a sentence, okay? I'm the subject. Nuria is the subject. Nuria is the important part of the sentence, doing the action, okay? But now, what if I said Nuria abraza a Gonzalo? Nuria hugs Gonzalo. Nuria abraza. Here we have two people. And if I wanted to substitute these two parts with pronouns, I would say ella lo abraza. This lo is the complement of the verb. It's telling you who Nuria is hugging. So not the hugger, but the huggee, if that makes sense. Okay? Lo. Nuria lo abraza. Okay? If Gonzalo were a woman, I would say Nuria la abraza, because it changes in gender. If it were multiple women, I would say Nuria las abraza. It changes in number as well. So that lo, la, los, las, it's the direct complement or object of a verb. Is who or what is being affected or receives the action. Okay? Let's introduce le and les. Le is the indirect complement. It's also unstressed. It's also not emphasized. The indirect object tells us to whom the action is done. For example, Nuria prepara la cama de invitados para Gonzalo. Let's translate this. Nuria prepares the guest bed for Gonzalo. Nuria is preparing something, which that preparing something, preparar la cama would be the direct object because it's directly what I'm preparing, okay? But I'm preparing it for Gonzalo because he's staying over, and so I'm preparing a bed for him. The bed is what I'm preparing, but to whom am I preparing it? To Gonzalo. So Gonzalo is the indirect object. If I wanted to substitute Gonzalo for a pronoun, I would say le. So I would say, Nuria le prepara la cama. Okay? Nuria prepares him or prepares the bed for him. In English, doesn't translate literally. That's why it's important to understand this nuance. So, the substitutes in this sentence, Nuria prepara la cama de invitados para Gonzalo. Nuria, the subject, the one who does the action, is the stressed pronoun. The one that it's ella, Nuria, ella. Okay? La cama de invitados prepara. La cama de invitados, what does she prepare? The bed, directly. So, la cama would be la. So, because it's the direct object, lo, la, los, las. In this case, la cama is feminine, singular, la. And then, para Gonzalo, le. Because it's just one person, so it's le. If it were Gonzalo y su novia, Gonzalo and her girlfriend, it would be les. Nuria les prepara la cama. It only changes in number, not in gender. Just one little thing here. If I wanted to substitute both pronouns, le, so la as in la cama and le as in Gonzalo, we would need to use se instead of le. Because while Spanish likes redundancy, it doesn't like cacophony. It sounds too weird. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but just remember that you will never say Nuria le la prepara. Okay, that sounds off. It's Nuria se la prepara. Okay, we'll see more examples now, so don't worry. First one. Les ofrecí mi cama, pero no la quisieron. So in this sentence, let's divide this sentence in two. The first part, les ofrecí mi cama, I offered my bed to them. And the second one, pero no la quisieron, but they didn't want it. Okay? The first part, les ofrecí mi cama. The verb here, well, the subject is yo, because it's omitted, but it's yo. The verb, the action that is done is ofrecer. Ofrecí, I offered. Okay? What did I offer? What is the thing that I directly offered? La cama. So mi cama is the complement, the direct complement or object. Okay? And then we have the les. Les indicates to whom I offered this bed, to whom this action was done to or directed to. So les refers to them. We don't know. We just know that it's more than one person. Les ofrecí mi cama. In this case, it's Gonzalo and the girlfriend in my little universe. So les ofrecí mi cama. Remember that the pronouns go before the verb. That's why I said les ofrecí, not ofrecí les. Les ofrecí mi cama. And now I say, pero no la quisieron. Pero no la quisieron. No la quisieron. The verb is quisieron. They wanted. They didn't want it. No la quisieron. And the la here refers to the bed. La cama. Mi cama. Okay? Is the direct object. Is what I directly offered, but they didn't want. Okay? So no la quisieron. La before the verb. Okay? Next sentence. Se lo prometí a mi compañera. Here we have a se and we have a lo. That's because we're substituting both the direct object and the indirect object. Okay? The subject, yo, again. We know because it's prometí, yo prometí, but it's omitted, as we do many times. Prometí. ¿Qué prometí? What did I promise? Something that I'm not saying, and that's why I'm saying lo. I'm not saying what I promised, because probably we spoke about that before, so I'm just saying lo prometí. I promised it. I promised something. This something, what I promised, is substituted by lo. Again, before the verb. And then se would actually be le. It's a mi compañera. Okay? It's the indirect object. It's to whom I promised this. One thing is what I promise, and the other thing is who I promise it to. Okay? So, this se again, because we cannot say le lo prometí, that sounds really weird and also means something else. So we don't say that. Se lo prometí a mi compañera. Now, you might ask, so why do you say the pronoun of the indirect object? So the person who is being promised to. But you also say a mi compañera, who is the person who I promised something. Why do I say it 2 times? Because Spanish is redundant. And if I say just lo prometí a mi compañera, if I start saying it, it's not clear that I promised something, but I promised it to someone. So literally what I'm saying is, to her, I promised this to my colleague. Okay, I promised it to my colleague. Okay, so the complemento indirecto usually it's redundant. You say it twice. A mi compañera and se in this case is the same. It's the same thing. It's just you're saying it twice. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now let's see this next example. Díselo a ella. Now, I wanted to add an imperative one just so you see an example of when you don't put it before, when you don't put the pronouns before the verb. And that's when it's one of the occasions is when it's imperative. Say it to her. Say it to her. Díselo a ella. Same happens here. First thing that happens is this lo. This lo is the something. Say it. Say something. Say this thing that we know that you need to say. Say it to her. So you can say something. You can say something to someone or to something. But now in this case, I said díselo because again, I'm not saying what is being said and I'm being redundant with my indirect object. And so I cannot say dílelo, weird. I'm saying díselo. Díselo a ella. Or just díselo. If we already know that it's her. Díselo or díselo a ella. Say it to her. Okay? This is just a little behind the scenes of what's going on with pronouns. I hope that, again, it's clear. And if you like the video, I would really appreciate it if you give it a like and if you share it and if you subscribe to my channel. And this way you'll be supporting me. Okay? So, nos vemos en el próximo video. Chao.